Press Start Podcast.
And welcome back to the Press Start Podcast. I'm your host, Vic, aka Mr. Never Chillin'. This is episode number 119. And this week, I do welcome back my co host, Roger, aka Lunatic Oblivion.
Hey guys, how you doing today?
How's it going, man? How's it going? It's been, I think 5 weeks since I had you on the show with me here. How you been, man?
Doing all right. The winter season has been busy. Between Hanukkah, Christmas, the New Year, just a lot going on.
Yeah, that's for sure. No doubt about that. And everyone, as you can see, no Scott here tonight. He is not feeling well, so hopefully he feels better, and we'll see him hopefully next week as well. But we do got a housekeeping update. We have officially removed the upcoming game releases and the leaks or rumors section of the podcast and turned those into actually social media posts. So if you're not already, make sure you follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter or X, whatever you guys want to call it there. But we will be covering like any like major upcoming releases, like any ones that we're looking forward to during like our games play or something like that. So stay tuned for that. But Roger, let's go ahead and dive into what we've been playing, man, because we both have a pretty solid list here. I think we're matched. I think we counted pre-show with 8 and 8. I don't normally have that many on my list, but I've been busy playing games. You've been busy playing games. Tell me a little bit about some of your games that you wanted to highlight first off here on your list.
Highlight. So you asked me about Solar Ash and what I thought of the game. So let's talk about Solar Ash for a minute here. This was a game from 2022. At the end of the year, it got released. So it was actually part of the 2023 year of gaming. It honestly was an okay game. I didn't think it was amazing, but for an indie game, it definitely felt like it checked a lot of boxes. I thought it was an interesting game mechanic. It kind of felt like I was playing Tony Hawk Pro Skater at some points. It felt like a skateboarding game. It felt really cool, really smooth, but a lot of times I found that I was running into issues where some of the levels were meh, and then like other times like hitboxes were weird. So like on the second to last level when you're on the toxic level, so you're trying to like you have to go the long way around the boss who's hanging out in the middle of the map just so you can get like two of these markers that you need to be able to start fighting the boss. And I saw that you could go through his legs. And I was like, cool, I'm just going to take the road that goes right up to him and through his legs. Try to go under his legs. Your character starts trying to climb up him. And I'm like, there's nothing there, dude. It is literally empty. And it just felt funky for a game that's supposed to be about like, free running and a lot, an invisible boner marshmallow. It did feel like that, dude. Like I walked up and my character's like climbing on nothing. And I was like, why? Like it just didn't feel good to play sometimes. And I thought overall the story it wasn't new and unique, or the things that it did with the story didn't really help to build off of an idea. Like by the time I got to the end, I was like, all right, I get what's going on. I get what the story's trying to do. And then the big bad was like, oh, if you do this, you're just going to keep repeating the cycle. And you're like, well, clearly I don't want to do that, because if I keep repeating the cycle, I have to beat the game again before I actually beat the final ending. No, I'm good. I'm just going to do what I'm supposed to do. It felt kind of cliche, kind of been there, done that kind of game story, or even, just media in general. It's the story that's been done.
Yeah, it's kind of like a society basically got to the brink and the world's ending, and then how do we save it? And you find out it's kind of like a time loop and it keeps happening, and you gotta either break the time loop or try and figure out a different way and stuff
but
like that.
the thing is, like, it's just coming to the conclusion that there's nothing you can do. You can't go back in time, and if you do, all you're doing is repeating the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
So it felt kind of meh at best, but like it wasn't a bad game. It felt good to play. Some of the levels were okay. I didn't like that you had to go back to some of the levels to go to the next part, and if you weren't paying attention, the game didn't like highlight things easily.
Mm-hmm.
All you had was a red light in the sky off in the distance that you had to look around and hope you see.
Yeah, it was
like,
definitely like
okay.
a discover it and explore on your own kind of way. I
Yeah.
I do agree. Like that was probably one of the negative points was like going back through certain areas that you've already been through, where like you didn't even need to do that because there was nothing to do in those old areas again. Like maybe if they added like some layers to it, like if when you did go back through it, there was something new that changed where you had
Something
to get to,
changed. Yeah,
yeah,
like
that would have been a little bit better, but it didn't. But I think this game I gave it a 9 out of 10 because like I really thoroughly enjoyed it. Like the navigate like the movement based in the game was really smooth. I enjoyed the combat. The boss battles were actually pretty fun too. Like getting from like that marker to marker before he turned red and then
yeah,
he would kick you
that
off.
honestly is what saved the game for me was the ability, like those boss fights actually felt like new, enticing to me. There were some problems I had with some of the boss fights where some of them were very precise jumps, and if you missed, you gotta repeat the stage. You missed
Mm-hmm.
that last little jump at the very end,
Yep.
repeat the whole stage. And
Yeah.
it was like,
It was like get good, bud, or
yeah, and I was just like it took me out of the groove where it felt like it was running nicely, smoothly. I felt like I was enjoying how the game was running. And then I was like, "Oh, made a mistake." And the game's like,
sorry, bud.
"There goes your groove, bro.
Yeah. I mean,
Who threw off my groove?"
and then aesthetically it looked really pleasing. Like the graphics were and the color palette was just like amazing to
Mhm.
me. And I just wish the game was a little bit longer, just had a little bit more depth. But I guess that's kind of what we also
Yeah,
get from indie games, like small, really small games like this.
but like I didn't feel like there were moments where I was like, is this game going to end? And I was like, this is going on a little far. And like I did like that they added in a bunch of the side stories that were really cool if you wanted to
Mm-hmm.
do them. But they were kind of like hunt and peck games where they didn't tell you where things were going to be, and it felt like it was too much work to go find the things you're looking for.
Right. Yeah, I definitely actually enjoyed some of the side stories that were told. They weren't like side missions, but like if you stumbled upon like a certain character in a game, like they would tell you like what they were doing, what happened to them. Oh, they were missing somebody in their family or whatever, and like, hey, can you go find them? And then you discover they're dead or whatever, and you have to go let the person know.
Yeah.
And like you can either tell the truth or lie and stuff like that. Like it was actually pretty interesting. So
Hmm.
overall enjoyable experience in the end. But let's talk about one of the games here on my list. Obviously December's game of the month for Shoot to Win's Game Club was Gotham Knights, and I did obviously end up beating it. We did talk about it during our game club talk. Just to highlight it though, is this game was just missing a lot. It was
Yeah.
missing a lot. Like I know you're big into the Batman universe, and like I don't really follow Batman that much, but Batman might be the only character I would follow out of the DC universe. But like to kick the game off, there is a 20-minute cutscene of showcasing how Batman dies that you're going to lose a lot of people playing that game with how long that cutscene really was in the beginning. Like it got to the point like, bro, am I ever going to play? It
Hmm.
and I wasn't sure like if it was going to be like some of those like quick time action like I have to hit A at
You're
this time,
like, do I put the
controller
controller
down.
down? Do I keep the
Yeah,
controller?
so it was like really like oh shit like so that was weird to begin with. But then like I talked about on our talk show is like I did zero side missions
Hmm.
zero because they felt like they had no meaning. And it was funny because I was talking with Inhuman Line, and he was like, "Bro, did you do the Mister Freeze mission?" I said, "Mister Freeze was in the game. I didn't even know he was in the game." There was a bunch of like the his Batman's villains were in the game, but I didn't run into any of them because I did zero
Zero.
side missions.
Hmm.
And I was just like, I just kind of just went through the story, beat the game, and that was that. And then it's like they have a fast travel system where you have to discover the like drones that are in the air. They kind of remind me of like the synchronization points in like Assassin's Creed, and I
Hmm.
didn't know where they were because they weren't marked on the map, and I wasn't about to look up in the sky 24/7 to try and find them. So I said, "Fuck it." So most of the time I'm riding the Batmobile or the Bat bike or whatever through the entire city, and like that took up a large chunk of my time trying to navigate the city because it's a really big map. Like Gotham is pretty big on
Hmm.
the in this game, and like I either rode the bike or I used the grappling hook that they all have, and it kind of reminded me of Spider-Man in a way. Like I was just going from like I was like slinging around the city. It was pretty cool. The combat felt really useless. It did not feel like the Batman Arkham games because all right, now I'm playing through the trilogy. I beat the first two games of the trilogy, and those games actually felt rewarding during combat and actually challenging. Where this game like was not challenging the least a bit. Like it was
Hmm.
insane. And then once I got a turret, you have to build up an ability to then place your turret down. And every time I would get that, I would just spam that, and it would kill like all the enemies. And I'm like, yep, next. It was just really, really unfulfilling. But like this, the
Yeah.
premise, the story was there. They just missed out on a ton of opportunities. But yeah, also played this during solo as well. So I wonder how the game would have played. cooperatively as well. But I'm never going to go check that game out ever again.
Mhm.
Hopefully they do something better with the next one because I'm sure there'll be another Gotham Knights 2 or whatever.
Honestly, it's what worries me about Kill the Justice League coming out. Like
Yeah,
if it it just feels like we're aiming for something that isn't really just it's just a bad game.
yeah.
Like it's just seems like it's going to be a bad one. It's meant to be like partied up with people. Like from what I could tell, it was like, oh, you're supposed to play with a bunch of your friends, but you can only play three of the four characters and only with three of your friends because it's a three-player game, not a four-player game, right?
I think so, but I
Yeah,
can't. I'm not 100% on that.
yeah, I believe they said it was only going to be three players, but there are four characters, and you're like, but most games are four-player, and they're like, get over it.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
definitely weird. And the other part with that game is that it's a games as a service, and that's not what we need.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like we're going to have Marvel's Avengers 2.0 is what we're going to
Yeah,
get out of that. So
and
it's
it's been
definitely
out
weird.
for a while too, which is weird.
What has?
Gotham Knights wasn't that out
Oh
for
yeah,
at
yeah, yeah.
least?
Yeah, Gotham Knights has
Yeah,
been out for like at least a year now at this point.
yeah.
But yeah, um, other game I beat. Well, how many games I beat here? Four. And next game I did beat was Spirit of the North. This was an indie game that was recently added to Xbox Game Pass. We did see Spirit of the North 2 announced at the Game Awards, which was really
Mm-hmm.
nice. And I was like, oh, this game looks pretty cool. And then it was like, then a week later, Game Pass was like, hey, we're adding the first one. I was like, okay, cool. And this one was actually a pretty cool, chill game. I don't know if you or Jordan had played it. I think you may
Mm-hmm.
have mentioned that Jordan might have, but you plays like that fox, and you're
Yeah.
kind of just navigating the world, and you're kind of discovering like what happened to humanity, and from the fox's point of view. And then like at the end, it was a really nice chill game, and the puzzles were really simple. There was nothing really bad about the game. It was just a very simple turn the
It was
mind
an
off.
atmospheric style game.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that one. But let's talk about one of your other games that you beat though. You beat a classic with Half-Life 2, and then you beat all of like the side expansions or whatever that were with it as well, I think, or DLCs as well.
Well,
What was that
so
experience?
last month or the month before, I can't remember when exactly. Well, it was the anniversary of Half-Life. So back in November, November was the like 15th anniversary or something of Half-Life. So they were
Mm-hmm.
selling the whole series, including all of the side stories, DLCs, and the second game for like less than $5. So I was like, fuck it, why not? I've not played Half-Life. I want to kind of see what's going on. And to me, it was kind of really worth it to see. Like it aged well, which is weird to me. There were certain parts that didn't age well, but you could see so many games where they came from and kind of how they stood up to this because you had Half-Life 2 and Halo Combat Evolved around the same time, which was really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what's cool about this is as you went to play further, Half-Life, they continued to build upon the engine. You had things like opposing forces, you had Blue Shift, and then you also had Half-Life 2 a few years later. And each one of them kind of redesigned the game and helped you kind of see where first-person shooters were going.
Mm-hmm.
But about the same time, like Half-Life, the original game to me, honestly, felt like it was more advanced than Halo Combat Evolved. But that being said, once I played Half-Life 2 and Halo 2, Halo 2 seems to like have taken all of its issues and fixed them. Whereas Half-Life 2 kind of felt like it was stuck with Half-Life 1, relying on Half-Life 1, but I'm excited to keep going in the Half-Life series because now that I've played Half-Life 2, I still need to play the episode 1 and episode 2. But now that I've played it, I'm like I'm ready for Half-Life Alyx. And I'm excited to play this VR title
Mm-hmm.
that kind of I bought and then I refunded because I was like I don't know if I'm going to play it. I haven't played any of the other Half-Life games.
Yeah.
So I'm going to wait for a deal and I'm probably going to pick up Alyx. And now I know after playing Half-Life 2 who Alyx is, who the main character of Half-Life Alyx is. And I didn't realize Half-Life Alyx, you play as a woman. You're actually a woman character, not a man. You're playing Alyx, the daughter of one of Freeman's colleagues. And it's just honestly, the game feels really cool. I like the dystopian feel to it. It's kind of a different sort of look at the aliens versus humans because whereas Halo, and Spooky Crew actually said this really well, I think, when we were talking about Half-Life. He really cemented like Half-Life cemented first-person shooters as a console game. Then Halo came along and like or for a PC game, you had Half-Life as the PC sort of thing.
Hmm.
And it felt like shooters were always going to be on PC. And then you had Halo come along, and that really evolved shooters to be a console game. Like if we didn't have Halo, we wouldn't have console shooters. And if we didn't have Half-Life, we may not have the same shooters that we have today in general. And it was really interesting to kind of see where we come from, gaming wise, with Half-Life, Half-Life Blue Shift, Half-Life 2, as well as Half-Life Opposing Forces. I thought it was really well done and like it aged well. I just think the story was also fascinating because Half-Life 2 did free roam exploration like really well. Like I thought Halo had some really cool free roam exploration in it, like Halo and Halo 2.
Hmm.
But like then I played Half-Life 2 and I was kind of blown away that like two or three of the maps were 100% go where you want. And it was really fascinating. Like there's a whole outside map where you're on the beach and it's like go where you want. Stop here if you want to kill these guys. Drive past them if you don't. And it
Okay.
and it felt like you were given the ability to free roam a lot earlier in games that like that was a feature we didn't get till later
Right.
in video games.
And that's what ultimately led to like open world games, which are
Yeah.
sometimes okay and sometimes
I think
bad.
abused at this
Yeah.
point is the real kick key.
Yeah, I mean, because like we were talking about Halo, like Halo 1 and 2 or 3, like any of the Halo games weren't ever open world. And then Halo Infinite comes
Yeah.
around, they're like, we need an open world, but we want to go back to the roots of Halo. And we're like, and I felt like
And
even Halo
like
Infinite's open world was kind of pointless. It was just like once you got to
yeah.
the next mission, then it felt like a classic Halo mission. But then once you were done with the mission, you were back in that open world to do what? To get to
Yeah.
like it. I don't know.
Yeah, I think Halo Infinite has a lot of work ahead of it, but it could do well. I just think the original formula that we saw in like Half-Life and Halo Combat Evolved, like you've got a linear story, but there are times where the map opens up and it looks like the roots of a tree, you're like, here, you've got the trunk of the tree. This is the story. This is the map. This is where you're going. But all of a sudden you get to a part of the game and it's like, you can go anywhere you want, explore. Like you literally have the whole place to just go where you want. But at the end, you still have to come back into a linear road and like there's a good story there.
Right.
I feel like Infinite, there's just too much to do
Yeah, definitely agree.
and none of it feels like it matters.
Amen to that. So I want to talk about my next game that I beat was
Mhm.
Firewatch. This is a game that I know both you and Scott have recently played and beat. And both you guys had like a complete opposite take on this game. And I at first I thought that you and him had the
From
same.
from you or
No, no,
me and Scott had different
yeah,
views, yeah.
different views together. And I thought you and him had the same one, and I realized no, you are probably more in line with me in this game because I understand why this game got a 9 out of 10 from most companies. This game was a pretty solid game, and like it had me thinking something way different is was going on in the game during the entire time until you get to the end and you were like, that shit just
Hmm.
grounded me, and that was like a real life human experience. And it was so
Hmm.
crazy, like just I mean, this game's been out forever, so we can talk about spoilers. It's been out for what 8 years already. It's a pretty old game
Yeah.
at this point. It basically kicks off and it like you get attached emotionally right away. You're playing as this guy, and his girl develops like dementia or Alzheimer's, basically super young, and she's starting to forget like who she is, who he is, and stuff like that, and how he basically like runs away and he becomes a fire watch. He's out in the fucking
Hmm.
forest and he's watching for fires and making sure that the forest is okay, not burning down and whatnot. And it's solitude, and the only connection he has is that lady over the microphone, the radio, that helps him walk through. And then like it starts to like shit starts to happen. Like people start to vandalize his tower and light fires, and you're investigating, and it almost seems very supernatural at times. And then by the time you get to the end, it's just like this guy that went missing, his son died, and then all this other stuff that happens, and it seems really weird, but um
Yeah.
it was a really really crazy game. really enjoyable game. But what was your experience with it for those that may have missed that
Honestly, I
episode?
was I was just super drawn into this game. Like I was not prepared for what this game was. Like playing through it, I was like, I don't know. I am not sure what to think of this game. And then as I kept playing, I didn't want to put the controller down. There were many times where like when the guy first spooked me on the rocks, I was like, "Oh,
Oh, what the
I
fuck?
actually I jumped. I was like, "What the fuck? Who the
Yeah,
fuck's that?" And she's
yeah,
like, "Some rock climber, grow up." And I
yeah,
was like, "Okay, thanks."
yeah.
But like as you play, like one of the moments that really stood out to me, like I kind of pieced it together when I got to the child's fort, or before I got to the child's fort. When I got into the cave and I looked down and I went, that's a kid's shoe right
It
there.
is a shoe. Yeah,
That's a kid's shoe right there. There's a kid missing.
there he
What
is.
if he's down here?
Yeah.
And so I kind of called it real early, went and then we went and saw the kids' little the fort, and I was like, you start to really feel bad all of a sudden, and you're reading the story, and like this is one where I actually took the stuff and I sat there and read everything I picked up.
Hmm.
Not at no moment did I just go, I don't care about this. Like I felt drawn into every little bit of detail I could find for once. And I think that's something that we struggle with in modern games lately.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to give you everything. Like, oh, look at all this cool stuff. We put all this lore in the game. And it's like, but does it feel like a game where I want to sit there and read your lore? Is the game drawing me in?
Right.
This game, it drew me in. I wanted to be a part of every little detail that I could find because like I felt like I was solving a mystery, but at the same time, it was such a good experience.
Hmm.
And the cuts were always really well done. Like you'd finish something and it would cut 3 weeks ahead or whatever, and you're like,
Yeah.
that was a quick jump, but like also, like when you think somebody's hunting you or stalking you, that was the craziest thing to me. Like
Yeah.
I actually felt panicked and I was like, look, I kept looking over my shoulder because I was like, what if somebody comes up behind me? Like, what if this is one of those games where somebody sneaks up on me? I kept I
I
kept
mean, it
looking
happened at one
around
time.
everywhere.
Remember when like they placed
Yeah,
that radio down and you went to go pick it up, and that guy like comes around like you don't see him, but he knocks you out, and then like you
yeah,
wake up later and you're like, someone hit me over the head or whatever.
yeah, exactly. I was just like, there are so many moments where shit happens and you're like, now you feel like you got to keep looking over your shoulder. And it wasn't like a horror game like, I don't know, Amnesia, where I'm like sitting there in a corner
Yeah.
staring at the bad guy, knowing that he'll kill me if he sees me. It's me
Yeah.
going, I don't see him. Is he there? Is he not there? And you never know.
Right. Yeah, and then like the whole mystery behind like why is there a fence in the middle of the woods, and like she
Yeah,
didn't even know about it, and it's like what government kind of shit is going on here, and then like you
yeah.
finally break in and it's like this tent and
Like,
radios and like they're listening
it's
in
just
and
a
tracking you.
university's research program. Yeah, you just break in on some university research program and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a pretty crazy game. Definitely
But
enjoyed it. I'm glad I finally checked that out.
and I would have never done it if it weren't for Game Pass.
Yeah,
I
pretty
just
much.
every time we sit here and talk about the games, I just feel like Game Pass. Like,
Yeah.
sorry, boys. Like, it's what it feels like lately. It's just like every time I'm just like, I can't stop touting how good Game Pass is.
Yeah, it's
And
crazy.
very seldomly do I come on here and go, PSN Plus.
Rarely.
Yeah,
Rarely.
rarely.
And
I've
it's
done it once or
crazy.
twice where I'm like, hey, I got to play a bunch of games that I wouldn't have played otherwise, and they paid for my year subscription of PSN Plus.
Right. And it's crazy, right? We were just talking about it before the show, how many games we beat in total last year. I beat 35, you beat what, 45 or something like that?
48.
48. Like, I'm pretty sure most of those games you probably played came from Game Pass.
Yeah.
That I mean that's how mine were. I probably
Yeah.
bought like 3, maybe 4 games all year.
I think the biggest things that I bought last year, just like Half-Life, I think, Super Mario RPG, and Endless Dungeon. Otherwise, like Spider-Man 2 maybe, and then I just like it's just straight, just going up my list. Like Liza P, Game Pass. Like that
Yeah.
was one of the best games this year I played, Game Pass, and I didn't pay a dime more than I was already paying. Like I played Raft this year, but it wasn't on Game Pass, like, and it was not very expensive, and But otherwise, so many games just Game Pass this year. Like 50%, I would give it a good 50% of my games. Played Prey this year. I've always wanted to play Prey, never got around to it. Free of charge, Game Pass. Okay.
Yeah. So let's talk about a game that I actually did purchase recently, and it's because it won Shoot to Win's Game Club Game of the Month for January, so it's a game that I'm currently playing through, and it's Assassin's Creed Mirage. If I'm not mistaken, you have already played this. Did you beat this one yet?
I didn't beat it.
Okay.
I kind of just I got exhausted with how little effort they put into this because
Mm-hmm.
it feels like as one of the reviewers I was watching talking about this before I played the game, he was like, honestly, this is Ubisoft's way of trying to show to their users that the old format doesn't work because they don't want to put the effort into it. Like this game, honestly, if they put the effort into it, would have felt a lot better. But there are some moments where it just feels so bad.
Yeah.
Like I literally I went and murdered the big guy on like one of my first targets, and then I learn a bunch of cool moves down below. But now I've got superpowers, which is weird.
Yeah, weird. Yeah.
Like I just
It's like they're almost running out of ideas for sure, and like I'm only like maybe 2 hours into the game, maybe three at most, and I agree here with Inhuman. Like the game looks fucking beautiful. Like that's one thing that Assassin's Creed has always been doing since like Odyssey. Like they've been looking really
yeah.
good. Um,
Yeah, Logical Robot here says Mirage is the first AC that feels like in a very long time that you can just skip it. And
and it
honestly, I hate the feeling of that because like
yeah.
there are some really cool characters in this game, but it feels like they just didn't give it the time of the day and they just wanted to overcharge you for a DLC.
No, yeah, for sure. Because obviously, we all know that this was supposed to be like a prequel DLC for Valhalla because this is you're playing as Basim, which is a character that shows up in Valhalla.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I haven't got any of the abilities yet. But like so far from me playing the game, and like obviously you guys know, I think it was either last year or the year before I played through and finally beat the original Assassin's Creed for the first time ever. And playing this now, like I feel the roots of that game.
Yeah,
And then I know a human will back me up on this too. Is the soundtrack and the sound in this game is like
it's good.
phenomenal.
It's so good.
Like I'm like, wow, man, like this shit's good, and like I hate to hear like the story doesn't seem like it's connecting really well. Um, but I wondered it because I know you didn't play Valhalla, so I'm wondering if the story really feels
I
disconnected to
skipped
you.
all the open world Assassin's Creed. Like I stopped actually before Syndicate, I think, is where I stopped. I beat Assassin's Creed, the Revolutionary War Assassin's Creed, and then I was Black Flag. I played Black Flag, and then I was done.
Okay, so yeah, so I'm wondering if that's maybe where you find the disconnect because I've heard that a lot lately. They were like, if you never played Valhalla, this game like expects you to know who Basim is and like what happens in that
That's
game.
not a problem. Like none of that was an issue. Like everything about this game felt good except for the content, the actual gameplay. Like it felt like the story is just poorly narrated.
Hmm.
Like it just feels very thin.
Yeah.
Very, very thin. Like it's not a meaty story at all.
Yeah. We'll see how it goes. What's up, Free to Beat? Appreciate you pulling up. Had fun conversating with you in the Call of Duty chat earlier and Shoot to Win. But any other game that you wanted to highlight before I wanted to highlight my last one here on the list?
No, honestly, it's just my list. It just let's talk about Lethal Company for a second.
Mm,
Have you tried Lethal Company yet? The game taking the
I've been
internet by
following it. Yeah,
storm.
yeah, I've been watching it
Yeah.
though.
Lethal Company, honestly, see, people even in chat are like, let's go, Lethal Company. Lethal Company, honestly, this is one of those games that it feels like Phasmophobia just resurged again and again and again. And I feel like this is a genre that we're gonna start to get more and more games in, especially after the success of Lethal Company. And I just shout out Lethal Company. There's like no gameplay to it. It is such a bare bones game, but it is genuinely one of the funnest things I've played lately. Some of my favorite moments are just somebody's talking to you on the radio, and then all of a sudden it goes quiet, and you're like, "Did they die?" Probably. And then you go to
Probably.
your ship, you're looking at the screen, you're like, "They're not moving. They're probably dead." And then all of a sudden they move, and you're like, "Oh,
Oh.
maybe not."
Yeah.
And also the fact that like this game has just some of the greatest moments where you're like, oh, the enemies can't come outside unless your allies' bodies get taken over. and then they start coming out as as monsters to chase you down.
No, jeez.
And this game is built with like the idea of building out mods. Like it just feels like a game that's like mods are what it's about.
Yeah, yeah. I would definitely wanted to check it out because I know it was surging like on the internet and Twitter and stuff like that. It seemed like some pretty good content to put together for sure.
Hmm.
So I mean, it was one of the biggest games of 2023, which was crazy, and it wasn't talked about at any award show, period, which is crazy. But I wanted to highlight the dumpster fire that it is. I mean, if Miko's in here listening, he'll probably get pissed off at me again like he did earlier. But I finally played through Modern Warfare 3's campaign, beat it. I beat it in less than 5 hours. Like I probably beat it in like four and a
No
half.
way, dude.
That's just the big that's just the tip of
Oh.
the iceberg of how bad this game
Did you
was.
do any of the side stuff?
What side stuff?
Oh, okay.
There
I
wasn't
thought there
it.
was supposed to be.
Yeah, like there wasn't really like any like side stuff. Like it was really weird because like they had like a blend of like straightforward missions and then they had those like open missions they were calling them or whatever.
Hmm.
And they
You
were
suck. It's 3 hours. Inhuman.
and I was just like, what is the purpose of these open missions? Because it was kind of I
Yeah.
wanted to talk about it earlier when you were talking about like how Half-Life had the introduction of like those open missions. You kind of do the mission however you want, and that's kind of like what this did, but like it was really meaningless. Remember the zombies that we used to play with? It was like on this like a big ass zombie map that you could hop in the vehicles and drive around and stuff like that. Like I forget what it was
Yeah.
called a couple years ago on Call of Duty. It basically took that concept and put it in the campaign, and then they added like Warzone crates that you can go around and scavenge. And it was just like before, like when in the screen, it would tell you like there's 16 weapons to discover, and I'm like, why do I need to go around and discover 16 weapons? Like there was no benefit to it. It didn't do me anything. Like there
It's
was,
not like you couldn't unlock them. Like, it'd be cool if you could go around the campaign and pick up these weapons and then get credits for multiplayer.
yeah, like it literally did zero to me. And then like the missions, bro, like the missions were just so empty and meaningless, and it was just they were trying to recycle content. Like they did the whole AC-130 mission again.
I mean, we've been doing that mission for years now.
Yeah, and that felt bad. I barely shot like a building and it was like, nope, you weren't supposed to shoot that building. And I'm like, I didn't even hit it, and it was
But
just
you weren't
bad.
supposed to shoot it, Vic.
Yeah, I know,
Come on.
but yeah, it was just an overall really bad experience. I mean, one highlight was the fact that it looked beautiful. I mean, it's probably one of the best next gen looking games. Period. Like it's really lifelike, and like
I
and
would
like
hope so.
Lauren was watching me play it. She was like, why does he look so familiar? I was like, they all look familiar. They're all actors. They're like big time
Yeah.
actors in a game. Like this is like like the game really felt like a classic blockbuster. But like the issue that we're dealing with right now with Call of Duty campaigns is we're having the Fast and Furious issue syndrome.
I was
There's 10 of
literally
those
going
movies.
to just shit on the Fast and Furious like seconds ago when you said these are big blockbuster actors. I was like, this
Yes.
is what these games feel like lately. It feels like the next installment of Fast and Furious. What happens? I don't know. Bank robbery? Cool. Let's do it again.
Yeah, and it was just very uninspiring. And like the fact that like this was truly just DLC because of how short it was. One, like
Mhm.
and like I had to pay $70
But
for
they,
this. Phantom
and that's
Liberty
what
for Cyberpunk 2077 was bigger, better, and more meaningful. And
and
it
it
was
was a DLC.
it was a DLC that only costed $20 or $30. I had to pay $70 for DLC. $70, and
Just so
people
you can continue to be able to play multiplayer as well.
right, yeah, $70 to play multiplayer because that's not free to play yet for some reason, and to play zombies because that's not free to play yet either. Like I will constantly have this argument with people. They're like, "Oh, Call of Duty shouldn't be free to play," and I'm like, "Why not? I will gladly pay you $20 every year, or whatever you want, to release a new campaign. That's fine. Make multiplayer free
Dude,
to
they
play."
make so much money off of the fucking battle passes that like all you need to do is just release battle passes for multiplayer and Warzone and just make multiplayer Warzone free and let you play whatever Call of Duty game you want to play. Just honestly, it should just be pick a time period, play.
Yeah,
And then if you want to play, I don't know, Vanguard level missions, go for it. You know,
yeah.
play with Vanguard guns, play a rotating lobby set, and just create different sections of loadouts
But
that you
I
can
said it
create one
earlier,
for
and
different.
because we were having this conversation in the Shoot the Winds like stream earlier, and I was like, the reason why we'll never see it like this is that they know people are willing to pick up this game
Yeah,
every year for
yeah. Mr.
$70.
Never Chillin' over here is willing to spend $70 and then try to convince Roger to spend $70 just to play zombies.
Yeah, I highly recommend wait until it goes on sale or whenever it comes to Game Pass because
It's never going on sale.
it's going to go to Game Pass eventually. It's going to Game
Hopefully.
Pass this year. I guarantee it's going to Game Pass this year. But let's go ahead and move on though from what we've been playing. Obviously, we both had 8 games. We covered a pretty good amount, and we've been talking for a while because this is a much shorter episode than normal. But we'll go ahead and move on here to some 2024 predictions. Because the episode was so light, I wanted to throw in some filler content that actually has some meaning. Shout out to Logical Robot for the follow there. But Roger, I just want to go back and forth with you. Any predictions, whether they're outlandish, what we expect maybe from Sony, Xbox, PC, Nintendo. So we'll kind of go it off here. Kick it
I'm
off to
thinking we're gonna get a quick release on the Switch 2 this year. I think it's honestly going to be something that we're going to see this year. It'll probably get teased sometime in the summer for I think holiday season this year.
Mhm.
That's definitely something I think we're gonna see, especially since the Switch 2 is already in the hands of developers for 2024 and 2025.
Yeah.
Um,
And I
what
put
else?
like on the social media post because I do the rumor roundup now on Saturdays,
Yeah.
and one of them was talking about how the Switch 2
Mhm.
is supposed to come out this year apparently, and it's like more of like an iteration and not like the next generational like
Think
Nintendo console.
think about DS. We had the 3DS, the new 3DS, the 3DS XL. So like
Yeah,
they were iterations on the DS. And that think about this like the Switch and the Switch Lite. It's going to be Switch, Switch Lite, Switch 2.
yeah,
You know, Switch 2 is going to be your next your higher powered version, more expensive, better fidelity, but it's going to be more expensive. It's like the Xbox X and S. You're
yeah.
going to have those sort of jumps, but now Switch is going to be a three-tiered system instead of two.
Well, it'll actually be 4 because they have the Switch and the Switch OLED,
Yeah, I
which
think
is
kind
crazy.
of at this point the Switch it doesn't exist as much as the Switch OLED. I think we're kind of seeing the Switch being phased out in lieu of the OLED.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that was actually one of the ones that was going to be on my list here for predictions. But I give you one. Obviously, I think with the acquisition of Activision Blizzard with Xbox, by
Now you're
Xbox,
stealing mine.
I know it's time to steal yours. I'm steal your thunder here. That we're gonna see a large amount of their games added to Game Pass, whether it's Call of Duty or like some. I think the backwards compatibility team is going to work their magic and bring a lot of their games to them, as long as they can obviously work over all of the licensing agreements and whatnot to make them happen. Because like the Transformer games, people are dying for these Transformer games to come back onto these consoles and be available on Game Pass. And with the rumor that is obviously another rumor I wanted to talk about here is the Xbox developer direct. They did one last year in January where they highlighted basically the roadmap for the year. I think we get one of those coming up here soon, and I think we do get that announcement for the Game Pass editions from Activision Blizzard at that show, and they're going to be like, "Hey guys, they're available today." That's going to be kind of like one of their like
I don't
shadow
know if we're
drops.
going to get them today, but I think they're definitely going to say, you know, by the end of this year, we're going to have a lot of our old, like Activision Blizzard's legacy, I'd
Titles.
say legacy collection
Yeah.
is going to be ported out. I think the more important thing we're going to see this year is how is Microsoft going to make the Activision Blizzard money back? And I think the key is not what comes to Game Pass, but what comes next. I think we see the resurgence of StarCraft. I think StarCraft is going to get a new installment as well as Warcraft. Not World of Warcraft, Warcraft.
Right.
And I think that's something that we're going to see this year is something. One of their flagships is going to be redeployed, if you will.
Hmm.
We're going to see a flagship come back out.
Yeah, that'll be definitely exciting. It's been a very long time since we had either StarCraft or Warcraft in
Yeah,
a
and I
while.
think World of Warcraft is also going to see some content that crosses over with Microsoft's Game Pass, just so that we can see a resurgence to World of Warcraft, because this is where the money maker is as well, is trying to make sure we keep our MMO going, because as we know, you know, Activision Blizzard is killing off all their esports at this point because they were stupid as hell.
Hmm.
Look at Overwatch, that's no they killed the league. Look at Heroes of the Storm, they killed the game. Look at look at
Hmm.
StarCraft and Warcraft. There are no professional leagues really for that
Right.
anymore.
They focus so much on Call of Duty. It's crazy.
There's nothing. Blizzard doesn't exist. It's Activision,
Yeah.
and then Blizzard
I
is
mean,
in the corner.
look at how many studios from Activision Blizzard work on Call of Duty. Like they've siphoned so
Yep.
much. There was tons of developers, like Ravensoft, for instance, is a support
Hmm.
studio for Call of Duty, but they were big time developers back in the day. Like,
Hmm.
but yeah, I definitely agree with that. But talking about World of Warcraft though, I do think we see World of Warcraft get announced for console coming to
Yeah.
Xbox.
I don't know if we see the console announcement. Maybe we do, but I think there's going to be a bigger announcement first.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about some Sony stuff though, because like they've been going through it, man. I think that
Hmm.
this year we're going to see them fully acquire Bungie, like take their independence away because of their turmoil that they've been going through. Um,
They've been
I think this.
floundering, honestly. Bungie has been, I think they've been a ship lost at sea. They've become a ghost ship at this point. They have no direction. They don't know where they're going. They were like, we have this cool new project, and they're like, they kind of look back at Halo and they're like, we made a mistake. All
Yeah,
right, let's keep moving forward. And they're like, shit, man, what did we do? And it's like, you guys, they stepped away from like one of the best games to have ever been released,
yeah.
like one of the biggest games to ever come out ever. And they were like, let's do something
They are the
better.
reason why
And then they,
Xbox exists
yeah,
and
they
still
are.
exists.
They really are. And if nobody's seen that documentary, it was really, really, really well done. And it really built the impression of how much Microsoft relied on Bungie to make the Xbox a thing.
Yeah, yeah, definitely agree. Also with Sony, I do think we see the PS5 Pro get announced in
Yeah.
summertime, and I think it comes out in the holiday. Like I think we're going to have the Switch 2 and the PS5 Pro both come out this holiday season. And
Hmm.
obviously the specs and stuff like that from the PS5 that have been the Pro has been leaked, and it's going to be the most powerful console, taking that from Xbox. But that's only going to be until the Xbox Pro Series X, Y, Z,
Yeah.
whatever they come out next for their next iteration. But
Which will
Xbox,
probably be next year, I think.
but Xbox is almost thinking like we don't need a mid gen refresh because our console is already not being used to
Yeah.
its full potential yet. Why do we need to waste time and money
Well,
on making a
I
mid gen
think
refresh?
I think it really is starting to be used to its full potential because we're starting to see PlayStation ports get the short end of the stick as opposed to being built for PlayStation. They're kind of being built for Xbox, I think, lately. Like we saw that with Alan Wake. Like the game is being built for it, and PlayStation is like, I'm dropping frames, and Xbox is like 60.
Yeah,
Like
it's like
it
Xbox
does
runs really
feel,
well, but PlayStation just can't hold the same power as what the
yeah.
Xbox does, and it's really curious to see how that goes. But Xbox is apparently thinking about the next gen console as opposed to the mid gen refresh.
And honestly, I think we're kind of in that moment right now, and I see Sony making a resurgence this year a lot in the gaming scene because, as we've seen for many years now, we've had to fluctuate. One console does really well, then the other one does really well, and then like they kind of beat off of each other. Microsoft, Xbox and PlayStation. Like, look at the PS3. We had the Xbox 360 and the PS3, and the PS3 floundered until it
Hmm.
decided to relaunch itself at a new, cheaper price point. And then the Xbox 360 was like, oh, we've got to invest in the Kinect.
Yeah, the Connect.
Yeah, no. And so the Kinect was the biggest failure to ever hit the market, in my opinion,
Yeah,
next to the Wii U.
yeah,
Like, it just, and now we're seeing Microsoft go, okay, we made this mistake. Let's fix the next generation. And they did. And I think this generation is Microsoft's generation, but it doesn't mean that they can sit there and sleep on it because I think PlayStation this year was going to start to figure out maybe we don't want to lose our Marvel deal. Maybe we don't want to keep getting our asses clapped. Maybe we can fix our PSN Plus because we could be taking this whole market share that we're not.
exactly. I mean, the Connect was used for a lot of interesting ways. I agree with Inhuman. Like, there was a lot of great things with the integration with it. Like even when I was playing 2K, like NBA 2K had a feature where like if you cursed or you yelled at the ref, like, oh, that was a terrible call, It used to give you technical fouls. Like it would give you technical fouls because they heard you talking shit. Like if you were in a real game and you did that, you got a technical foul. It was just
it
like
it
simple shit
it
like
never
that that
was
mattered.
truly like making the game to the next level. Like
No, it was
there
a
were
gimmick.
some like look at the JC Penney demo video that somebody posted of the Kinect when it was first coming out, and the guy's like trying to block the ball, and the avatar just goes, and you're like, oh God, what happened to the avatar?
That's great. All right, man. So without further ado, that is our 2024 predictions. I know there's probably a ton more that we could have went over. We could
Yeah.
have been here all day. It could have been its own podcast, honestly. But we do got some industry news to talk about. So let's go ahead and move on here to our industry news. All right, so sticking along the lines of Xbox, but in this case, it's really just focused in on Activision Blizzard per usual. And when I dropped this article into the Discord, I was like, it is never a dull day with Activision Blizzard because they are being accused of discriminating against old white guys. And I was like, man, isn't this fucking great? And it was because like one of the like former Activision Blizzard says he filed a discrimination claim with the company alleging it was like, discriminating against old white guys, and he said the problem is that there are too many old white guys running the company, and that came from Bobby Kotick. Like the CEO said this in a meeting, and these guys were like,
Mhm.
"That is discrimination, bro. Like you're saying that the reason why we're not succeeding is because of old white people, and it's because of age discrimination." It's like, hmm, this is an interesting case
It's a
here.
catch-22. Like there is some founding fact in that.
Yeah,
Yes. But on the flip side, by black and white writing in the book, yeah, that's that is race and age
yeah,
discrimination.
oh, yeah,
And
and
like
race, yeah,
that's what sucks. Like it's factual because what happens is we're getting only one view on what's going on, and it's these money bag laden white rich dudes who are like, we clearly know how business works. And they're like, have you seen our Call of Duty sales? And then like then everyone else over here is like, what about actually making games inclusive, making games that are fun for the players competing? They're like, but have you seen my bags of money?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I agree, logical. I'm glad Bobby is gone officially, and
yes.
so we finally got the toxicity out of it, I think, and I think they're cleaning house and they put the right people in charge. That's just from what I've seen and from what we have already seen from the experiences and the outcomes of the
Yeah.
other deals.
Yeah, I think honestly with PlayStation and Activision Blizzard losing their CEOs this season, this winter, it
Actually, I got a funny joke, right? So
yeah.
we know how PlayStation is losing Jim Ryan come March,
Yeah.
and Bobby Kotick just left Activision Blizzard. I seen a meme. They were like, "Who's gonna be PlayStation's next CEO?" And it has Bobby Kotick over here going like this. I was like, "Oh man, Bobby Kotick going to PlayStation.
Oh,
That would be fucking hilarious. Like I would fucking
it would be
die."
so bad. Like honestly, that would be the end of PlayStation as a one of the trifecta.
Oh yeah, yeah. Easily
Yeah,
they
it would
would
just
instantly.
it'd be over.
Yeah. So Roger, you actually put it in Lunacy Arts chat that boy Japan was going through it, and they sure did. They
Yeah.
kick off the year with a major earthquake, tons of aftershocks, tsunamis, planes exploding. I mean, like you name it. But there's some good news out of it, right?
Yeah. I don't know if it's good news. It's just it's good to hear
Good
that
to
at
hear news.
least
There we go.
both the Pokemon Company and Sony are pledging money this year for the earthquake relief fund. They're both going to pledge more than $40 million. That being said, Pokemon is donating 50 million yen and Sony is donating 40 million yen for earthquake relief funds across Japan,
Yeah, that was
which is
awesome.
cool to see. Like
Awesome here.
these are companies that are like succeeding, actively succeeding, giving their employees proper pay and pay raises, and then they're like, "Oh shit, we're seeing our actual constituents, the people who love our games, who want to be a part of our community. Let's help them too."
Yeah, and the
Like
fact,
they don't have to do this.
right. I mean, but they're headquartered out of Japan, so like it almost makes
Hmm.
sense, like to
Yeah.
help out.
Well, they're Japanese companies.
Yeah, I mean, like if something happened here in America, I'm pretty sure Microsoft and Apple and those kind of companies here would help out.
I don't think they would
You,
do anything.
you don't think
I
so?
think they'd be like thoughts and prayers.
Thoughts and prayers. Sorry, our
My man dropping thoughts and prayers. They're worth so much.
Yeah. But yeah, sad to hear for Japan. Awesome news though, hearing from these gaming companies being able to give back in a different way. But that is all of our industry news that we do got for you folks this week. But let's go ahead and move on to our meat of the episode with the gaming news. All right, man. So obviously we kick it off every time, most times I should say, because there was that one week where we didn't, with Xbox related news. And the first one here is in regards to Halo Infinite, and this is actually maybe they need to take a page out of the or give this page to Call of Duty because they are partnering up with Sprung Studios and collaborating with 343 Industries to bring a new UI interface to Halo Infinite with all of the new updates, like the new modes they're adding, the with the just having Forge in general and being able to navigate like the community creations. It's going to be a big time use. I mean, look what Fortnite has done. Like, I don't know if you actually, that's one game I didn't put on my list. I checked out Fortnite, the racing and the Lego experience and stuff like that, and they're like their UI is just beautiful. You can navigate and figure out what you want, what do you want to play. If you want to check out community creations, that's what we're getting here with Halo Infinite, and that's going to be an awesome addition. Like Halo is booming right now with content, and I think that's going to be awesome to see a new UI interface there. Call of Duty needs
Hmm.
it desperately as well. Heroes of the Storm, Roger, you dropped this article into the chat, and it's because they killed off this game a long time ago. You actually just mentioned it, but the fans are resurrecting it. How are they doing so? Are you looking forward to it? Are you going to be checking this out?
So back in 2023 of November last year, we found that Heroes of the Storm was being sorry, it's July 2022 that it was canceled. But back in November of 2023, fans got together and are starting to build mods. And they're actually not building them in Heroes of the Storm, crazy enough. They're building them in the StarCraft game editor. So people are rebuilding Heroes of the Storm as StarCraft mods so that they can keep playing these games that Blizzard doesn't Activision Blizzard is just like these are not worth it. Like what's crazy to me is fans I only hear good things about Heroes of the Storm all the time. Like when you people talk about MOBAs, Heroes of the Storm is one of the biggest ones that always pops up that I always hear about. And it's crazy to me to think that people are actually doing called are building a mod called Resurgence of the Storm. And this is now going to be a group of people just like we had for Defense of the Ancients or Dota that was built in StarCraft. We're now seeing people build Heroes of the Storm in StarCraft. Which it, mind-boggling that it comes to players to make a better game for free than the developers themselves.
Right. Well, hopefully once they come up with this, maybe they get a job offer. That'd be great because these guys aren't getting paid to do this.
Yeah,
Yeah. So that's
but
interesting that they're building it inside. You said StarCraft.
they're
That's.
using the StarCraft 2 engine to build this stuff.
I mean, if it works, it works. To answer your question, logical. Does it get shadow dropped this year? Then possibly. I mean, that could that. I mean, it's been in the works for a long time. Whether we see it at the developer direct here this month, that's not official yet, or Summer Games Fest during their Xbox conference, then we could also see it, but only time will tell. Obviously, you can. There's already a battle royale in Halo Infinite that people, the community, has made with the Forge mode, so you can check it out. I heard it's actually really fun and really enjoyable. But like, if you're looking for the full fledged battle royale experience, I think that's on its way because Halo is actually in the process of being transferred to a new engine. They're going to the Unreal Engine 5, so it's going to be a whole totally new game. Like I'm pretty sure like that partnership, that collaboration with Sprung Studios is also part of it. Like with the transitioning to Unreal Engine 5, I think it's all coming together here. But moving on here to Xbox services, Game Pass had another killer drop here with the upcoming releases. You got Close to the Sun came to cloud, console, and PC already. Hell Let Loose came to cloud, PC, and the next gen consoles already. But a big one here, Roger. You might be able to give it finally a chance without spending money. Hey, Assassin's Creed Valhalla is coming to cloud, console, and PC on the 9th. So here in a couple of days, you can experience that massive game. Then you got Figment coming to cloud, console, and PC on the 9th. And then on the 11th, we got two games, Super Mega Baseball 4, cloud, console, and PC. This comes via EA Play. And then We Happy Few does return to the service because it was there before, but it is now back, coming cloud, console, and PC on the 11th. Then we got another big hitter here because who doesn't like Resident Evil? But Resident Evil 2 remake is coming to cloud console and PC on January 16th. And to round it out on the 16th, you got Those Who Remain coming to cloud console and PC. So this is another solid list here, just with having Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Resident Evil 2. It may give you a chance to check out Assassin's Creed, and may give me a chance to check out Resident Evil 2. What's your think on this lineup here?
Honestly, a lot of these are older games, so we're not seeing anything new right now. But then
Mm-hmm.
again, it is also the dead period for game development. We just got done with the holiday season. People's wallets are very, very, very thin. So it's we're waiting for tax rebate time, and then I think we're going to start to see those revamps of the catalog. But it's interesting. We're finally seeing things return to the service, because this is one of the first few that's really returned to the service, because for so often we
Give or
get,
take a few.
yeah, there's so few that return is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But they also do like an announcement for games being added twice a month, and this was the
Hmm.
first one. So I think that's what I'm saying. Like at the developer direct, which is supposed to happen within the next 2 weeks, is also
Hmm.
lining up when they announce the next Game Pass drop. We get some Activision Blizzard games get announced for that as well.
Possibly.
That's where I'm getting a tie-in there. But unfortunately, with the additions, there are also departures. So on January 5th, Grand Theft Auto 5 for cloud and console will be leaving. This will be the second time this game has left Game Pass, and it was recently just added like a couple of months ago. So I'm interested to see why it's leaving. Like I figured this game would at least be in Game Pass up until GTA 6
Probably because
launch.
they announced GTA 6, they want to see if they can get people to buy GTA 5.
Yeah, like it hasn't sold enough already.
Yeah. Well, I mean, same with Skyrim, but they did it over and over and over again on
Yeah, I
Skyrim. So
know.
like, I
I get
mean,
it.
GTA 5 and Skyrim came out about the same time.
Yeah, which is crazy to think about, right? And then January 15th, we're losing a couple more. You get Garden Story, Cloud Console and PC will be gone. MotoGP 22, Cloud Console and PC will be gone because I think MotoGP 23 was recently added already. But interesting one here is Persona 4 Golden for Cloud Console and PC is leaving the service because this is one that they were touting. Obviously, they were like, all the Persona games are available now on Game Pass, blah, blah, blah. Big selling point. So I'm wondering if like maybe that was just a short term deal that they signed. Maybe Atlas will like review the success from being on Game Pass
You
and
know,
maybe
it
sign
may
a
have
new one.
cost them a lot of money to get Persona 5 Tactic. It may have been that cost them a lot.
Yeah. But with the next one here, Persona 3 Portable leaving the service makes sense because we're getting Persona 3 Reloaded added to Game Pass in a couple of months here. So that makes perfect sense there. So I'm wondering when like Persona 3 Reloaded comes in, maybe we get Persona 4 back onto the service.
Hmm.
But Roger, that is all of the Xbox news I got for you today. Tell me what's going on over there in the PlayStation world.
Sure. So PlayStation has confirmed via a new post on what to expect this year. We're going to see a Silent Hill 2 remake, as well as Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater this year. And then their services got an update. So the January PS Plus games that you get are Plague Tale Requiem, Evil West, and Nobody Saves the World.
For the first time, I think we have a week of PlayStation news that was good and positive and not so negative.
I mean, better than neutral.
Right.
Like, at PlayStation, there are weeks where they're not bad, but they're not good either. They're just neutral.
Yeah.
But like, it feels like this month, right now, PlayStation is winning the catalog wars. With the free games coming to PS Plus. Honestly, Nobody Saves the World. Excellent game. A Plague Tale Requiem. A good game.
Yeah. But the funny thing is, all three of these were on Game Pass.
They were.
Are
They
they?
were
Well, I
indeed.
think two of them still are.
Well, no. Nobody Saves the World. Did that hit?
Yeah, that hit Game Pass a long time ago. I don't know if it still is, but I know it was
Yeah.
definitely on there because I remember scrolling past it several times. I was like, maybe I'll check this out. Maybe I don't check it out. But
Okay. Because I
yeah.
don't remember it hitting, but yeah.
So yeah, it's a pretty solid lineup. And then like with the remakes of both Silent Hill 2 and Metal Gear Solid 3, that's awesome to see that they're going to be coming out this year. And I think that Metal Gear Solid 3 remake is at least coming to
Hmm.
Xbox as well. But I think the Silent Hill 2 remake is at least a timed exclusive for PlayStation because that's what PlayStation likes to do now is have timed exclusives with third parties. That's another conversation for another day. But nonetheless, awesome to see people being able to finally experience these games if you weren't ready to buy them. Plague Tale
Yeah.
Requiem, one of the best games I've ever played. Honestly, if you haven't played it, go check it out. It's on Game Pass still, and now if you're not an Xbox guy, it is on PlayStation Plus for free, and you get to own it as well. So Roger, you dropped this article into the chat, and I was like, I didn't even realize like that it was having this issue because like the game is booming. This is one of the biggest like games right now when it comes to like shooter wise is the finals, right? And players are actually really frustrated with the quote impossible to finish unquote battle pass. Apparently, you need 100 to 150 hours of in-game time to complete the battle pass.
So you're telling me I need to work 4 full weeks of gameplay just to
That's a
get
lot.
my battle pass? That is 5 8-hour days, 4 weeks in a row.
It's not happening. Like that is your job is to complete that
That
battle
is your
pass.
job. Yeah. As a streamer, you still can't complete the battle pass?
That doesn't seem like that adds up, right?
And like,
Man,
how long is this battle pass supposed to last?
right? Because normally they only last like two,
Two
3 months.
months, 3 months?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 99% of your player base is never going to complete the battle pass, so they miss out on all that content that you wasted all
Yeah,
those resources making.
exactly.
That doesn't sound brilliant. So hopefully they figure that out. Because remember when Halo Infinite first dropped and their first season's battle pass like took forever to fucking get like the rate at
But at
which you
least you can
unlock.
go back to them.
Right, that was the benefit. That was the big time benefit when it came to Halo
And you know
Infinite.
what also is really cool about the Halo Battle Passes? Like, the thing that I think the coolest Battle Pass is Halo Infinite's is that the Battle Pass, if you complete it, there are actual codes that they'll give you to buy a physical pin to show that you've completed the Battle Pass.
I did not know that. That's fucking
Yeah.
dope. Because
Yeah, dude. I just found that out when I
my
was looking up your pins. Yes, your
those
pins that you posted about. I went to their website and on that same page they had pins for $343,000
oh
and it
yeah.
said you use a code to reduce the price. And I looked at two of them and they were like, complete our battle pass, you'll be given a
Mm,
code to give the price of
okay.
19.99.
That makes sense now because when I was on the website before these ones were announced and released, and I was looking at for Halo pins, and I was like, bro,
Yeah.
$343,000. Who has that much money to buy a pin? And now it makes sense. Like they're
Yeah.
priced at like that because they're exclusive for people who complete the battle pass, and you just put in the code and you'll get it for
Yep.
free or whatever.
For 19.99 or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, that
Which
actually
is
wasn't
cool.
bad. I got 3 of them here for like $30 or whatever, and it's supposed to be like their new enamel pin trading collection. So they're going to be releasing like new ones every month, and I'm excited because like that means we're going to get like Gears and Sea of Thieves and maybe Forza and like Call of Duty. Like
Hmm.
there's going to be so many fucking titles that they can pull from and make pins, and I'm like, yo, that fucking thing is going to be badass when it's done.
Hmm.
But yeah, man, let's go ahead and move on here to something that broke the world, honestly, here because Tetris, right, has been around for longer than me and you have been born. And go ahead and tell me about it, man. Because man,
Yeah,
let's
so
dive into it.
Tetris officially has a completion. So let's talk about Tetris, the original Tetris, and how the developers built the game. So the game was only built in a way so that you could only get through so many levels of Tetris before the blocks moved too fast to actually finish the game. So the idea was you wouldn't have time to be able to spin the blocks before they landed. So you would block out your screen and it would just naturally end because you couldn't keep up. Well, players of the game Tetris learned how to use button mashing techniques to be able to spin pieces quick enough to keep going. Well, as they got further and further into the game, the pieces continued to speed up until at some point you literally, even with button mashing techniques, couldn't get it. So then a new player hit the scene during the GameCube period era and found that there were new strats on button meshing techniques where you would actually use your other part of your hand to push the controller up into the button so that you would literally wiggle the controller in your hand where you would use one finger to push it into the button and the other finger to press the button quick enough.
Jesus.
So then they started using these techniques to actually move even faster. Well, it turns out that these techniques allowed us to get to a point where the game was no longer even playing how it's supposed to be played. So what happens is when you build a game, typically you write your code, and then the code is stored on your hard drive or on a cartridge or whatever medium that you pull it from. Well, what happened was the game got to a point where the media was no longer being loaded from the cartridge because the developers never built the game to go this far. So the game is actually loading its new instruction sets from the RAM, from the actual console's memory that is loaded instruction sets of the game, but it's reading the wrong memory space. So then as they started to get further and further into the game, the tile sets actually were supposed to like they were supposed to get to a tile set, and that was the last tile set ever made. Well, the game goes past that and it says, well, what do I use? So it starts inventing new colors for these tile sets based off the memory as opposed to the actual code set of the game. And so we found last year that the world champions they got to a new level called I think it was dusk, which is like an almost invisible color. The tile set is almost black like the screen. It is so light that it is extremely hard to see. But after you get past this level, which the kid who actually was the first one to beat Tetris, once you get past this, the tile sets change into super vibrant or blood-like colors, and it just some really crazy color schemes for Tetris. And so it was really fascinating to see these people get further and further into the game. And most of these accomplishments are actually only from the past year or two that they found out about all these super color schemes, and somebody got the charcoal. And a lot of this is only in the past few years that we've gotten to see Tetris really evolve to what it is. Well, last year somebody had built a tool assisted speedrun Autobot to play through Tetris. And they used a thing, it was called Rabbit, I believe. And Rabbit actually played through Tetris with precision that, there is no input time. It literally spins the block and moves it where it needs to go instantaneously. So it just automatically completes the game. So what they did this so they could see what would happen to Tetris if it went the whole way. Like if the bot can complete it. Well, what happened is it turns out that the tool assisted speedrunning bot Rabbit got to a point where it froze Tetris. There are actual parts of the code when it reads it, there is a percentage chance that the game will literally just lock on the completion of a row. So what happened is, depending on your score, the amount of rows you've cleared, and it's just the rows you've cleared, your score, and a few other small minor details, like what numerical value is in the 100th place of your score has a chance to crash your game. So the kid that just beat Tetris after 34 years, what had happened was he was in a competition with one of the other number one speedrunners in the world, or number one players of Tetris in the world, and the two of them were taking records back and forth from each other and kept going further and further. And then one of them decided that he was going to do a stream every day for like 8 to 10 hours, I think it was, until he beat Tetris, until he got it to lock, like the tool assisted speedrunner bot. The kid beat him to it. He was really close. He was past the dusk level and he's doing really well. But then somebody says the other guy's almost done. So he tunes in and watches his competitor live on Twitch actually freeze his game of Tetris. The kid actually missed his first kill screen because there's this kill screen that is 100% success chance on stopping the game's code. He whiffed and cleared 3 lines instead of 1, so he had to keep playing the game because he missed the actual kill screen. And then he locked it in at a 70% chance to freeze the game. He got it.
Yeah, on level 157. Like, that shit's nuts.
The game was supposed to only go to like level 19 or 17.
Yeah. Like, his score was 9999999. Like, it was just like maxed out. Like, everything was just maxed out. Like, it just stopped
Yep.
calculating. It was just like, that's fucking impressive. And it broke the
Yeah.
internet. Like, it broke the world. Like, everyone was talking about, like, non-gamers talking about, like, news companies were talking about it. And, like, I hated the
Sky
fact.
News.
Yes,
Fuck
thank
that
you.
lady
Yeah,
on Sky
fuck that.
News.
She
Fuck
she
that
told him
lady.
to go
She was
touch some
like,
grass. That's
and I was
basically what
like,
she said.
she's like, find a real career. And I'm like, the kid's 14. Grow the fuck up, lady. He's
Yeah, yeah,
14.
13-year-old
13.
13-year-old told him to go get a real job, broke a record, did something that no one has ever done in 34 years. Like,
Yeah, nobody's gonna tell a 13-year-old playing
that just
tennis
that just made his career. Like,
winning,
he just became probably a
a
full-time
let.
content creator or streamer, whatever he wants to do now.
Yep.
All because of that.
Yep. And not to mention, like, she's not gonna go tell a 13-year-old winning trophies at like tennis competitions around the world to go touch grass, right?
Right, probably not.
Yeah, like,
Yeah, that was mind-blowing. That
uh,
Yeah, and she got roasted all over fucking Twitter and Reddit, and
yeah.
it was bad.
I'd be surprised if they're not like, hey, yeah, we're gonna go in a different direction.
Yeah, this job ain't for you. You might need to go get another job. Imagine that
Like,
karma
as a
instant
news anchor, your job is to report the facts, not your opinion.
right. So Roger, you actually were talking about Phasmophobia earlier, funny
Yep.
enough, and they actually released an updated roadmap. In the roadmap, though, I do know that they officially removed the release dates, but this is the content that you have coming out for this game. I
Well,
mean,
what's important about the roadmap, the actual importance here is during 2024, we will see Phasmophobia finally get the 1.0 release. So we're supposed to see 0.9, 0.10, and 0.11 versions released this year. And then at the very end, we're supposed to be able to see the 1.0 full release of the game. We're going to see, and I'm just going to go through the roadmap real quick here. 0.9, we're supposed to see eye adaption. We're supposed to see lighting overhaul, real-time GI. We're going to get progression and improvements, item tier adjustments, and a new shop, version 3 of the shop, which is huge. This makes the game, instead of just a load up and go and what's the point in getting flashlights versus super flashlights and things like that, this is going to take it to the next level. Then we've got version 10, which is new tasks, new optionals, reward changes, photo overhaul, video evidence. Instead of just getting picture evidence, you can now record video evidence of the ghost that will get you money, as well as a sound recorder tool, which is a new piece of equipment. Then lastly, in version 11, we're going to see the new player models, new player animations, CCTV overhaul, and the player customization ability, followed by the final release where we get new ghosts, hunt overhaul, hallucinations, event overhauls, new interactions, and much more. As well as the Point Hope Lighthouse will release. So you'll now be able to play Phasmophobia in a lighthouse. That's not spooky.
not at all. So you excited, or have you hopped back into Phasmophobia in a while?
No, I haven't played Phasmophobia in a while, but this is one of those games that I think, honestly, it 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 really could have been the next generation of VR gaming, because
Mm-hmm.
it really ties together VR with non-VR players.
Yeah.
And it really felt good to play Phasmophobia in VR, but it also was really horrifying.
Yeah, I remember playing it a few times and I was like, "Yo, this shit's crazy. This shit's crazy as fuck. Like, it's not for the faint-hearted. Like, not at all." Yeah, but it seems like our community is not the biggest fan of Phasma, and they have games that they prefer over it. Demonology from
Lethal
Phil
Company, it
and Lethal
seems here,
Company. Yeah,
boys.
yeah. So it seems like that's the way to go. But maybe Phasmophobia with its 1.0 release becomes that game.
Maybe, but honestly, Phasmophobia is the one that kind of built this genre. Doesn't mean that they're the ones who should own it. It just means there's a little bit of credit due here, because the genre seems to have been built by them. That sort of 4-player, get in, get out kind of deal with the horror, but you can't fight it.
Right. So that was fun. But Roger, let's stick in along the lines of horror and one that really is surprising here. For those of you that don't know, but the copyrights or whatever it is for Mickey Mouse expired for Walt Disney World as of January 1st of this year. So anybody, it's in the open
They
domain
were
now.
They were unable to renew it because of copyright laws. It's over 100 years old now. This is one of the first things to hit 100 years for copyright. So it enters the public domain, like his iconography, Steamboat Willie only though. So it's
Yeah.
the original iteration of Mickey Mouse enters the public domain.
Yeah, so I'm gonna get the trailer up on screen for you guys here to check it out as we're talking about it. But this is basically like this is crazy, dude. Like, remember when they redid that with the Winnie the Pooh? Because Winnie the Pooh went into the open domain last year, and
Yep.
they made that movie. Well, we're getting like Mickey Mouse, but they're also making a Mickey Mouse like movie as well, like a horror movie now. But this is
Yep.
the game that's coming out, and it's like similar where it's like that 4 player. Like I think this is 4 player if I'm not mistaken. And dude, I'm like, what the fuck? Like they really just take like the shit. You're like, oh, this is so kid friendly, and like, how can we make it creepy?
Let's throw fucking Steamboat motherfucking Willie.
Right. I mean, it almost seems like what they do with like Thomas the Tank Engine, and they just like throw him into like Resident Evil and shit. It's like, this is creepy.
Yo, my man just got clocked when he walked through that door.
Is this the first time you saw the trailer as well?
I haven't watched it the whole way through, but it's I only saw that image and
Yeah.
I was like, oh, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, dude. So Mickey Mouse horror is on the way, guys. Yeah, pretty fucking crazy, dude. Like I was like, people were on it. Like like this shit had to have been in development like before. Like they knew the copyright was coming out, like going to be an open domain, and they were like, as soon as it cleared, they couldn't get the approval. Boom.
Yeah.
Day one. There it is. Here's a trailer for our game. Like they were ready for that shit. All right, man. We do have our quick updates section of the gaming news before we get out of here. So if you just want to run through this real quick, it is actually just one quick update.
Yeah. And what's crazy is we were talking earlier about Cyberpunk 2077 versus Call of Duty. Just to give you an idea, a $20 DLC for Cyberpunk has now surpassed some of like the biggest games out there. Phantom Liberty DLC is now at 5 million players and counting.
Yeah, that's nuts.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money for a game that we honestly were so excited for, so saddened by.
It was like an
it's a
emotional roller
resurgence story.
coaster. Yeah.
It really was. I remember because we started this podcast around the time of Cyberpunk, with just the run up to Cyberpunk was this podcast for many, many, many weeks.
Yeah. Honestly, like it was like it was like the mainstay. And then like we did the whole review, like giving our feedback, and like we were actually enjoying it because we weren't having any experience, like
Yeah.
any issues, because like at the time, like that was around the same time the Xbox Series X just dropped, so I was playing it on that, even though it didn't have the next gen update yet. Playing it on that ran smooth. You were running on your PC rig, having no issues, but those that were running on
Yeah,
the
dude.
Xbox One and the PS4, man, good luck.
I was on a 2070 Super and I was like, yeah, let's turn on ray trace. Ooh, this is pretty. And the
It's-
game still plays.
Ew, look at this. Yeah, I mean it's a beautiful game, and honestly, I'm excited to dive back into it because I know me and you were both excited for Phantom Liberty, and this might be the year to finally dive back into it and start from scratch and check out the adjustments, the additional content, like from like Edge Runners and stuff. Because if I'm not mistaken, you actually watched Edge Runners as well.
Yep.
Yeah, I haven't. I'm gonna have to check it out because speaking of that, I actually finally gave in and watched the Halo TV show on Paramount Plus because they just released a trailer for season 2, and
Sorry for your loss.
dude, it was rough. It was rough, and the thing is, like, and it's because I'm a Halo fan. I'm a huge Halo fan, and the problem with it is if this wasn't Halo, like if you just threw in like some other fucking just say this was a brand new IP, oh dude, just that the whole show would have been a banger. Like it's cinematically wise, like if it was shot really well.
It
like,
had potential.
it
but
was great.
just
The story was
missed the
there,
mark.
but it was like because I know that this is Halo and what they did with the character was like, bro, taking off the helmet in the first episode, I was like,
What the fuck?
my whole life I've never seen. I've always wanted to see his helmet come off in the game, not in the show. And I was like, all right,
And-
cool. I'm cool with it. Fine, whatever.
Yeah.
The helmet comes off. But then like he comes out the armor's off. He's walking around like this is John 117. I'm like, this is really
Get
weird.
the
And like
fuck out
then,
of
then
here.
then like his armor's off like most of the fucking show, and it's really weird. Like he puts it on when he goes to a mission, when he's back wherever he's at, it comes off. And then when he has the sex scene with the character that he shouldn't have had sex with was really weird. And I was like, yeah, I'm lost here. Highlight of the show has to be Cortana. Cortana, because it's done by the same voice actor from Cortana from the very beginning. She was superb. I love that. But like honestly, we were like confused, like why didn't they just tell the story of the Combat Evolved and forward? This is kind of like a prequel to Combat Evolved, because by the end of the show, you're going to the Halo ring,
Yeah.
and that's where Combat Evolved starts.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. I thought that they just completely wrote it off. This is a completely different universe that has nothing to do with whatever happened. It might not. It might not have to fucking tie into the game at all. But where it's leading up to, it has potential. I don't think it was as bad as what everyone thought it to be, but like some of those things that I was just complaining about does make it feel really weird.
It's jarring.
It just doesn't feel right. Like you could have just left Master Chief alone. And like the fact
Mm-hmm.
that like when we are playing the games, right, Master Chief doesn't say a whole lot in the games. He has some conversations with like Cortana and every once in a while like with Sergeant Johnson or whatever. Like
Mm-hmm.
not much conversations going on. It's really Cortana talking, the grunts talking, elites talk, whatever. He talks a lot in this fucking game or in the show. And it's like it was a little different, especially coming from the how many times did we play and beat Halo? 1, 2, and 3. A bajillion. Like I don't know, just felt really weird. But I'm kind of excited to check out season 2 and see if they do tie it in to Combat Evolved and where the game actually goes. Because if they do and they actually listen to the community, I think that we could see a huge resurgence to this series. But I know I just went off on a tangent there talking about Cyberpunk and the Edge Runners and stuff like that. But I definitely wanted to throw that in there. But shout out to Cyberpunk for still succeeding after what, it's almost 4 years now since the original game dropped. But all right, Roger. Any last comments, remarks before we go ahead and close out this week's episode?
Yeah,
Man?
I forgot to mention something we forgot to mention. Final Fantasy, the MMO, they just dropped their trailer for the new expansion last night.
Oh, Final Fantasy 14.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the beta should be dropping for the Xbox soon as well. I think it's in February or March.
Mm-hmm.
So that's exciting. Like that game is still booming, especially even with 16 being out and trying to succeed over on PlayStation.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. But we do want to start off by thanking everyone who did check us out live today on Twitch, and anyone who does check us out later on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. But Roger, where can the community find you at, man?
Hey, I'm on Discord. You can find me on both our Discord here as well as my personal Discord, Lunacy Arts.
And of course, everyone, you can check me out at Twitter at Mr. Neverchillin _. I post a lot of content, the other day I posted like the top snowy maps or snowy games and stuff like that. Just a lot of fun, engaging posts. Check me out on there. And I do post over on Threads as well. I'm trying to get that caught up. And then on Xbox, on X Never Space Chilling. If you want a game, party up, slide in my DMs there. And Facebook is Vic Brubacher for any questions, concerns, or if you want to come on the show, hit me up on that. And I do stream over on my personal Twitch at twitch.tv /Mr. Neverchillin, where I am currently playing through Assassin's Creed Mirage. And I do got to figure out what other small game I do want to play this month. I actually am thinking about picking up Thirsty Suitors. That was that game that was just recently added to Game Pass. I know Marshmallow, I think he has already beaten it, but I definitely am looking forward to giving that a go. So make sure you come through and support me there. But we do want to thank everyone again. And until next week, have a good night, guys. Peace.
See ya.
Press Start Podcast.